I need to tell you something I've been noticing for 3 years now, and it's going to sound harsh, but stay with me. A lot of people enter engineering excited about things they will build, but they leave confused about what they even learn. And somewhere in between these 2 points, they stop enjoying the process entirely. Not because engineering is broken, not because programming is boring, but because something changes, something subtle, something dangerous. By the end of this video, you will understand why most of the engineering students aren't doing engineering anymore and what costs you in ways you haven't realized yet. Let me show you the exact moment it happens. Very early in college, first semester, sometimes second semester, the main question itself changes. You stop asking, how does the system actually work? And you start asking, is this enough? Enough to clear the exam, enough to submit, enough to get shortlisted. You see, enough becomes the goal. And the second that happens, deep thinking becomes to feel unnecessary. Think about it. If your goal is just to pass, why would you understand the why behind Dijkstra's algorithm? You just need to memorize the steps, right? If your goal is to submit, why would you refactor the messy code? It runs. That's enough, right? If your goal is to win a hackathon, why you actually build a backend infrastructure when a Figma prototype runs faster? This is when engineering stops being engineering. And here's what wild about this. Nobody announces it. There is no gathering for this. There is no moment someone actually comes and say, all right, we are just now optimizing for the outcomes, not for the learning. It just happens slowly, quietly, until one day when you realize you spent 4 years in engineering and you don't actually know how to engineer. When was the last time you built something just to understand something? When was the last time you built something just to understand how it works? No grade, no competition, just because of your curiosity. I've been personally to a lot of hackathons, won some of them and failed them miserably, and I've seen something happen over and over again that perfectly captures this entire problem. I've seen teams win first place with nothing but a UI, just a really well designed Figma mockup and a confident pitch. Meanwhile, the teams that built fully functioning software walked away with nothing, not because their work wasn't good, but because the judges didn't understand software engineering. And that moment, that teaches you something that is incredibly dangerous. Outcomes are more important than capability. Presentation is more important than the actual systems. Looking impressive is better than being competent. So people adapt. And here's the thing I need you to understand. They are not adapting because they are lazy, but because they do not want to be that person who works incredibly hard and gets ignored. The environment is teaching them that the depth doesn't matter. That if you can look like you know what you're doing, that's better than actually knowing them. And once you learn that lesson, everything else follows. Why spend 40 years building a system if you can build a landing page in few hours that looks like the product? You see where this goes. Now let me show you why this keeps happening. Because it's not just students, it's not just hackathons, it's the entire structure. Faculties have their goals, placement cells have their goals. From the outside, all of this looks aligned. Everyone's working towards the success, everyone's trying their best, but none of it, and I mean none of it, is actually aligned with the one single thing: becoming a strong software engineer. So what happens? The system rewards compliance. Follow instructions, finish tasks on time, don't ask uncomfortable questions, don't challenge the process, and slowly safety becomes the highest virtue. Not real safety, but the kind of safety that comes from doing what everyone else is doing. So people don't ask, what kind of engineer do I want to become anymore? They ask, what's the safest path to a job? Same courses, same roadmap, same project, same GitHub propose that suspiciously looks like 50 others. And then they expect something magical to happen. This is where I need to be very direct with you. A lot of people complain about that they don't get jobs after engineering, that the degree didn't give them what it promised, that the system failed them. But that complaint doesn't even make sense. Engineering doesn't guarantee jobs. Degrees don't guarantee jobs. Colleges don't guarantee jobs. Engineering gives you access, not outcomes. You don't just study engineering and automatically deserve a job. You earn a job by becoming useful. If all you did was attend classes, clear exams, submit assignments, and collect degree, then the system did what it exactly promised. What it never promised was competence. But instead of just accepting that, people blame engineering itself. The curriculum is outdated, the evaluation is unfair, the placements are rigged. And look, some of that might be true. But 5 years down the line, blaming the system won't help you. The skills will. At some point, ownership will matter more than fairness. And I know that's very uncomfortable to hear. But also, that's the only thing that changes your trajectory. Because here's what nobody tells you. Becoming a good software engineer always required efforts outside the system. Thinking when no one is watching, building when there is no reward. But the environment doesn't reward that. It only rewards completion. Here's the thing that makes all of this worse. Most of the students feel productive because college consumes your entire day. Travel to campus, sit through lectures, take notes, work on assignments, prepare for submissions, stress about deadlines, you are busy. It feels productive. But the real learning happens quietly. The late nights, the early mornings, no deadlines, no validation, just you and the problem. And that's uncomfortable. Thinking is uncomfortable, so we replace it with activity. That's why hackathons have become demo competitions instead of learning labs. That's why people care more about winning than understanding. That's why so much of students don't trust their own thinking anymore. They check before they think, they validate before they even try. When thinking alone starts to feel irresponsible, that's a serious problem for an engineer. Ask yourself honestly, how much do you actually remember from last semester? Not the subject names, not who taught them, the actual concepts and actual skills. So here's where this leaves us. The growth keeps getting postponed. After this exam, after this submission, after this assignment, but habits don't change later. They solidify now. And maybe that's the most interesting part of all this. Because the problem really isn't the system. The system is what it is. But the real question is, what kind of software engineer do you want to become? Not the package you want, not who you want to beat. What kind of engineer? Do you want to be the person who can actually build things, who understand the systems deeply enough to debug errors without the help of AI, who thinks clearly under pressure, who can look at a problem and knows how to approach it? Or do you want to be the person who looks like an engineer but feels lost every time something goes wrong? Listen, the system isn't going to change, but you can. If this video made you uncomfortable, that's good. That means you still care. Drop a comment and tell me what's the one thing you're going to do differently this week. Not for a grade, not for a competition, just for yourself. Let's see what happens.